Es ist nicht das erste Mal, dass Kula Shaker beim Rockpalast sind, denn 2008 haben wir sie schon mal beim Haldern Pop Festival getroffen. Die Band gibt es seit über 20 Jahren und jetzt sind sie nach einer längeren Pause wieder mit einem neuen Album am Start. Guys, you played Haldern Pop Festival in 2008. And how does it feel to play your own Rockpalast show tonight?
Well, it's a different approach, because when you play a festival, you know, a lot of the crowd are not your fans necessarily, so you have to take a different approach to wooing them. But tonight, this is the first show in Cologne for a long time, so we'll feel like it's a bit of a sort of a return, isn't it?
Yes, celebration, German celebration.
Yes. We last time we were here, we climbed up the bell tower in Cologne, and we took pictures to prove that we actually did it.
Yeah.
But the show that we did in at the festival, Alonso, we all remember that because Alonso didn't have any clothes with him.
I wasn't naked.
He was almost naked.
I was almost naked.
So it's etched in our memory of this sort of wardrobe crisis that took place backstage.
I was in the middle of moving house, and the people whose house I was moving into didn't realise they had to move out. So all my stuff was in storage, and I'd lost the key to my wardrobe with all the stage clothes in. So I was dressed like a farmer. I had my mother-in-law's like raincoat on, I remember that. Particularly stylish number.
So it has been 20 years since you started the band. And what was the biggest challenge for you as a band?
When we started,
No, all the time, if you look back on all the last years.
our biggest challenge has been Paul.
Finding vegetarian food.
Yeah, no,
Getting
it
BBs
used to be very difficult for us to eat. Just basic sleeping always a challenge, but eating, because we're all vegetarian, and to start off with, Germany was the most difficult country to eat because everything had ham. And now Germany is 20 years later has become one of the best places to eat vegetarian. So we
can
look
have
forward.
food with no speck. It's amazing.
I mean, really, we're all about the menu.
Yeah.
Our priority. We're pretty simple.
Germany's got the best catering in Europe now. Italy was at the top, but now if a vegetarian, Germany's up there. It's really,
Would you say that?
How would you explain that? Why is Germany?
I think because more and more the people get into vegan and vegetarian food and this lifestyle, and yeah, I think it grows here. You have all the biological food and stuff like that.
I think 20 years ago, the ideas that we were, into and presenting through the band, like mantras and, global sense of identity, global, appreciating other cultures and things like vegetarianism, and they were all a little bit, what would you say?
left field.
Left field. And now they've become part of the mainstream, so it's good for us.
Yeah, and it's kind of a mind change that happens here in Germany. I think so.
It's good.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Would you say that the band is more a passion for you than a job?
Sorry?
That the band for you is more passion than a job, than earning money?
Well, when we started off, we were kids and we were friends, and
And now we all hate each other.
and now we all
We're all
hate
adults.
We're a family now, because it's not just us; it's us and our wives and our children and our extended family. So it's more than a band; it's part of our life. So are we still passionate about life? Absolutely, yeah. But we were always passionate about our music. We were obsessed, and that's what you have to be in a band and to keep going in the business. You have to be obsessed with doing it.
So you are inspired by the Indian culture. How did you get in touch with it? I think it was a long time ago, wasn't it?
We had a lot of great friends who introduced us to not just the music, but also the traditions and the roots. And the more it's one of those things where, especially with something like Indian music, the more you know about it, the more you appreciate it. And we had some good trips. We did a bit of spiritual tourism, but we never came back. A part of us we left there, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like saying I never came down, you know. In a way, we never came down off that trip, and we're still in the middle of it now.
How would you describe your relationship to the Eastern philosophy and religion?
Well, the thing is, you know, Paul, what? What was that noise?
Sorry, that was rather.
That's drumming noise.
How? I mean, I sometimes in the conversation I find it hard to focus and not go off on a tangent. And you ask a band like this a question on that. You how long have you got? We might be here until the gig, and then we wouldn't have any dinner, and then we'd be all emaciated. But
There's a good tangent.
Yeah,
That's a good tangent.
Brilliant.
Well done, well done.
He hasn't even got to gong bards yet.
Yeah.
Paul, you see, Paul used to make fun of us. He comes from Glastonbury, and Glastonbury's full of very new age people, especially, you know, in the early 90s when we all got together. He ran screaming from Glastonbury to try and come to London and hang out with normal people, and he met us. And unfortunately, you know, he couldn't escape it. And now he's
Dragging him back.
The other day he ended a conversation by saying, and then I gave him a hug and a gong bath. That's when you realise he's just gone.
Everything he
The
touches
beer
turns
drinking
new
football
age.
fan had just.
Do you know what a gong bath is?
No.
It's when somebody lies on the floor and you go around.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
This is Paul.
Paul used to like
thought about
lager,
a big
lager
gong,
and
so-
football.
Yeah.
And it was bullied out of him by the love of
It's a way of life. You see, it's a way of looking at the world where you realise that the way, you know, you can look at the universe and see it as a machine, or you can look at the universe and see it as a magical creature, and there's an element of truth in both, and that's a worldview and a way of life. It's not a kind of a religion. In English, the word religion means kind of, you know, separating yourself from other people into a group, whereas in India, for instance, they don't have that word. They have Sanatan Dharma, which just means the way, the path of truth. So we're more into that open-minded way of using language.
So which artists or vocalists do you admire, and how do they influence your sound?
Like Johnny Cash, you mean? You mean just any artist?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Johnny Cash. I got into Johnny Cash late, you know, like in my 30s. I hadn't really listened to all the country stuff. Who's your favourite vocalist, Paul?
at the time when we were all living together in a flat in North London, I used to try and turn these guys on to Jeff Buckley. I was listening to that record obsessively, and they used to tire of me playing that. But I love that record. I think that for a modern artist, I'm not sure anyone comes as close to him. But even if he only made one record, it was still amazing.
What about you?
Vocalist?
Yeah, vocalist, artist.
How can you choose one? I think I like...
Well, you have to, I'm afraid.
You have to. I like all the old soul guys, and I guess one of my favourites is Donny Hathaway.
Etta James. I like the soul people. Yeah. she's great.
So talking about your new record, you always struggled with being a great live band and recording that sound.
Mm-hmm.
How did it work this time?
That's true. It's not an easy thing to just, put a microphone up and get the atmosphere of a live show, because, part of the way that your ears hear rock and roll is that your ears are crunching the sound and trying to defend itself from the violence of the volume. So there's all kinds of tricks that you develop to try and replicate that. I hope it works, just because the playing gets better and you start to bear in mind that it's being recorded. But we finished a recording this year, which we're releasing in December and January, which we're really happy with. Finally, we got the live sound.
And what themes do you explore on the new album?
What themes? It's really, the theme is seeing the connection through time of where we were when we were kids to where we've ended up as adults, for want of a better word. Now that we've been through that journey, and now that we've got kids ourselves, it's, 20 years is a natural kind of anniversary point to look back and see where you've come from, where you are now, and where you're going.
Is it kind of a circle? You mean this circle
it's exactly
thing? Yeah?
like a circle.
Okay.
And you have been doing your research, I can tell. Apparently, there's two ways of looking at time. You can say, well, time just starts on one point and goes in a straight line into oblivion, and that's called linear. And then there's circular time, which is like the moon, the phases of the moon and the seasons, and also the idea that time itself has qualities that rotate. So I think there's an element of that with this album where we feel like we've kind of gone back to where we started. And the first track on the album is the first song we ever played as a band, which we now developed into a track called Infinite Sun.
Okay. So it's a really old track?
It's really old, but it's also really new.
When did you wrote it?
Well, we used to play in festivals when we were kids, and we would try and get free gigs. And one place we played was called the Green Gathering, wasn't it?
Yeah, was it Green or the Rainbow Circle? Is it the Rainbow People? I don't know. We
Possibly a Rainbow Circle,
Yeah.
but there were lots of people in teepees, and we heard this chant, "We are one in the Indian sun," and we used to play it, and we developed it years and years later, and we came back to recording this album. Oh, we never did anything with that. We never turned it into a song. So that was actually the first track that we developed for our anniversary record.
Even though we were a rock band, we used to play in Glastonbury in this place called the Assembly Rooms, and we'd be rocking out doing our thing, and there would be middle-aged ladies in purple dresses with their eyes closed and their arms in the air, going like this to the rock music.
Oh, we're waving.
They're
there,
probably
yeah,
younger than you are now.
Yeah,
exactly.
If you look back.
So this venue has been a cinema in the beginning, in the 50s, and you're also into filmmaking, you write screenplays. Would you say that there's a similarity between making a film and making music?
Yeah, I think there's lots of similarities in writing and honing, and editing and that kind of craft. I guess it's the same with painting and anything where you have to have a certain discipline. But films take much, much longer than albums, apart from our albums. Our albums take about 5 years, and the last film I worked on took about 5 years. So actually, I take it all back. It's exactly the same.
If someone would film the story of your life, who would that be, and who would write the soundtrack?
Paul, over to you.
Is he called David Hemmings? That film Blow Up has got an actor called David Hemmings, who at the time when we were younger, we certainly saw parallels with Crispian, and he was zipping around as well. He wasn't just sort of sitting smoking a joint like those boring 60s movies. He was going from one place to another, which was very Crispian.
Yeah, Antonioni, Blow Up. That is a good film. There's not much dialogue. There's a lot of. We know Jane Birkin. We did a gig with Jane Birkin for a charity called Anna's Africa, and we were quite. We couldn't forget that scene of her rolling around on the floor in Blow Up, no clothes on. But yeah, she's lovely.
So, and who would write the soundtrack?
Who would write the soundtrack to your movie?
So the movie, The Story of Your Life.
Yeah, okay.
Who wrote the Benny Hill soundtrack?
Is Benny Hill famous over here? Not
I don't know, no.
He was one of the only English comedians in the 70s that became really massive in America.
Yeah.
And he was just all rude, sort of big bums and tits
Seaside
jokes.
humour, wasn't it?
Seaside humour, and all speeded up as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. Ennio Morricone, there you go.
Yeah.
You can have him.
Somewhere between Morricone and
Hasselhoff.
old Star
And John
Wars.
Williams.
Yeah.
I'll get Mark, a young Mark Hamill can play me, and Hasselhoff
there
can
we
play
go.
Paul.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.